This is my 34th year in education, and the funding is so important. And I think it's doing an injustice to our kids. I think our kids deserve better. Even Franklin Delano Roosevelt made a statement that education is one thing we shouldn't economize. So we're doing that right now, and the state does have the money.
Where does the money come from that the state does have?
Well, as far as what goes to school or the states.
What goes to school?
Okay, what goes to school is it's student driven. Like state funding is always a year later. So our October enrollment, like this year we have 476 kids at North Tama. So next year we'll get 476, or we'll have $6,366 per kid. So it's about $3 million that can be used, and that's for curriculum supplies, professional development, transportation as far as gas, as far as non-buses, and then 80% of that's called the general fund budget, but 80 to 82% of that's staff salaries. And you're limited on what you can spend with that. So that's about $3 million. In schools, people don't realize this, but let's say you took 365 days, divided by a $9.8 million budget, it costs us $27,000 a day as a business to open up the school. And most people don't realize that.
Wow, that's a big chunk of money.
That's a lot of money.
And with the start date being pushed back to after the state fair or after Labor Day, whichever you just said, right?
Right.
How is that affecting?
That affects a lot of schools in the sense that, let's say you want to take online classes through Hawkeye Community College or any of the other colleges around here. Most of the colleges are starting about August 15th. So if we open up our ICN and we open up our facilities for that, who's going to be here to monitor that? Because that's before the teachers' contracts. That'll start early. How does that affect the sports activities? For example, junior high, you have to have 10 practices before you can compete in an activity. And let's say it's junior high football, and you can't start practice till the first day of school. So as a weather sport with cross country and football, does that mean you're going to be ending a lot later? Where week 0 in high school football, you'll start before school starts. The other things are that if you want to get your semester tests done before Christmas for the first semester, you're not going to get those done. It limits the time. If you're a bigger school that has spring break, you'll probably have to eliminate that or get done in the middle of June. So there's a lot of impact on that. Educationally, we'll make it work no matter what it is. But there is no educational reason for them to move the start date back. It's all due to finances, and it's a push from the tourism people. So.
Okay. And how is it important to keep programs such as the fine arts? How important is that to you?
Well, that's educating the whole child. I mean, it's your hemispheres, your modalities of your brain, your thinking. Those programs are so important. It's not just drill down skills and memorization, those type things. It's creativity, it's artistic work. Plus the other things, sometimes these activities, let's say we have 30 or 40 girls out for volleyball or basketball, but we may have 6 kids in speech, and those kids may not be involved in anything else. Plus, that also makes the kids take some ownership into the school. It might be the one thing that they do. So the activities are important for social and emotional development.
Okay, and what can Iowans do to reverse this effect?
Well, they need to contact their legislatures and the governor. And I know that, the House has passed 1.25%. School budgets go up by an average of 3 to 3.5%. So if you think about it as a business, I mean, how are you going to be able to survive if you don't have enough funds to, less than 2% each year, year after year after year? And, the Senate has passed 4%, so they're going to come in and compromise somewhere in between. But the funding for schools in the last 7 years, the real dollar value has decreased by $641 per student. And Iowa ranks 35th in the nation. And I know that in talking to some of our legislators, they don't like this statement, but you can't have world-class schools with third world funding. And if you look at the states around us that are always ranking maybe a little bit higher than we are in assessments, is they spend a lot more money per student. And we average $1,621 less per student expenditures in Iowa. And education has been something we've been really proud of. And schools have done a good job in the last 15 years with declining budgets of doing a good job making cuts. And I think our education now is a lot better than it ever has been. It's better now than when I went to school 34 years ago.
Okay. And how do you think this is going to affect the economy?
Well, the economy's, if you cut out the programs, kids are coming to school with more baggage than ever before. You know, there's more kids that have autism. There's more kids that are coming from divided homes. There's more kids that are coming from single-family homes. And it's kind of like if you study education, you study Maslow's hierarchy of needs. Those basic needs have to be met. And if we don't meet those basic needs, emotional and social development, these kids aren't going to care. What are they going to care outside of, you know, some of these kids, the most important thing we can do is give them breakfast and lunch. And, you know, our free and reduced rates are increasing. It's in here at North Tama over the last 4 years, it's increased from like 32% to like 38%. And there's a lot of school districts that have over 50%. And, you know, if you study the cultures of poverty, if we don't meet those needs, what are the important things for them? Getting an A on a test is important. Doing your best on a basic skills test, or Iowa assessments now as they call them, they're not going to care. So if they don't care and they get so far behind in school, you're going to have more dropouts. What happens when you have more dropouts? I mean, what are those kids, what are their lives going to be as an adult? You know, sometimes they get involved in crime, sometimes they earn welfare, and if there's more people on welfare, that means their taxes have to raise. And also that the business and industry people keep talking to our legislatures and keep talking to the educators is that they want high-skilled, high-wage jobs. Well, if we have more dropouts, that means that we're going to have more lower-wage jobs, more lower-skilled labor, and some of those companies aren't going to come to Iowa. And a lot of times that, you know, for example, like the insurance people, this used to be the hub of the insurance businesses because Iowans can talk to anybody and relate to anybody around, and the work ethic in Iowa is better than a lot of other states. And we don't want to fall economically as well. So what they do in education will have an impact on all of us.
Okay, and do you think, as you mentioned in there, we'll have more dropout rates and everything. Do you think that'll also affect the test scores and the ITBSs that you guys take?
I think they have to, just because, you know, we spend a lot of time trying to motivate kids to do well on those tests. And if you're not motivated and you don't care, if you don't see any end results in that, I mean, if you're you know, in the cultures of poverty, and the best thing you can do is, you know, a part-time job. I mean, are you going to be able to raise a family? Are you going to be able to pay your bills? You're going to be able to own a house? And the cultures of poverty is that usually when you get to the second generation of poverty in your family, it's going to continue.
Okay, and do you guys do the dual enrollment with the college?
Yes, we do. Yes.
Do you think with the less funding from the government that you guys won't be able to offer that as much?
It'll make it tougher to pay for that, and we might have to put a limit on it. Right now, we don't have a limit on how many students can take it, but because I think it's important that the kids, you know, are better prepared for college and life as an adult.
All right. Any last thoughts about?
Nope. Just I would say that contact your legislators and contact the governor. You know, unfortunately, I think their mind's made up, but you know, we have to try.